Hello, hello, hello. How is everybody doing this morning? It is Friday, July 28th. We got some rebound in the markets going on right now. Let's go ahead and check that out. Oh yeah, I updated my indicator. .3.4. If you got Wayne's Pivots Pro, make sure you remove and reapply the indicator to your chart just like what I did. And now I got the most up-to-date version of the indicator. Just a minor update today. So, in store for us. Well, let's consult real quick. All right, we'll go ahead and hide that. Transition. Let me know what you guys are looking forward to over the next week, because we got some stuff going on here. Harry, Ricardo, Filios, nice to see you all. Big move on the yen today. Yeah, I was just talking to a couple other members about it today. And I'll be going over why the move happened, because there seems to be some confusion among traders. You know, look, if you're going to trade yen based just because it's moving, go on right ahead, right? All the power to you if you got a system that can look at the change in prices and give you a general signal that you're willing to place a bet on. However, if the reason why you're placing that bet is not because you have some system, but because you're just looking at the news and you're like, oh, it looks like Japan changed their policy, but I don't understand why they changed their policy or to what capacity they had changed their policy. Maybe for some people who are new to trading, that seems like an okay thing to do. It's like, oh, well, there was just some change, so let's go ahead and put on some trade. You can tell just by me speaking it's probably not a smart idea. So, this is what we got on the docket for today. Again, you can join the Plan to Profit Discord and get notified every morning of all the research, all the trade research that I do for these streams every single day. And I just put into bullet points, hey, here's what's going on. And then if there's a headline you like, you can click on these little tips and it'll take you right over to the resource where you can read all about it. So the easiest way to break Japan stuff, I'm having people send me, think ing and just like a bunch of different news sites, right? Some like along these lines. People send me stuff like this. Investors maneuver, and this actually was yesterday. This is actually a good read. Because here. Yeah, so check this out. Chief Investment Officer at Singapore-based Modular Asset Management. Yesterday, on the 27th, this guy was saying, hey, I think that they're going to adjust yield curve control, and I think there's a 64 to 40 chance that they change the 10-year yields. And they remove the 0.5% cap on 10-year yields. This is foundational to all Japanese yen trades going on. If I go back, Let me close that. And if I go back here, let's go to pound yen. So you see how hard of a move that was? And this thing could still keep going lower, right? Let's go to euro yen all the way down, and then it slingshot back up. Aussie yen, it kept going down and down and down. And we're here on a 2-hour chart. This is New Zealand yen, down and down and down. That's 140 pips. And then I believe CAD yen. This is down 160 pips. All these are down, and they'll probably keep going down. Except for dollar, you had this slingshot also on dollar yen. So what exactly happened to cause all these moves? And not only that, all these yen pairs moved, right? Well, it's because of these yields, right? Here's the 2-year Japanese bond yield, and here's the 10-year. And the 10-year is what moved. So when this thing went up, it sent all the yen pairs to move in favor of yen strength. That's it. That's all that happened. This 10-year moved up, and the yens moved down because the yen got stronger. So if I go back, this is exactly what that guy was saying yesterday. And then there's also Nikkei doing a whole breakdown, right? Truth be told, you can read outlooks, you can read whatever you want to read, from whatever third party you want, from whatever news aggregator you want. But if you want to take this stuff more seriously, when you are brand new, especially, or just getting into this stuff, it's worth doing, kind of writing out the problem, doing the long form of the trade research, which is go directly to your source. So if you want news on the Bank of Japan, go to the Bank of Japan's website and get the docket. There you go. Statement of monetary policy. How did I find this? I Googled Bank of Japan and I went to their front page. That's how I got this. But then again, I'm subscribed to the Bank of Japan's email newsletter. So as soon as this comes out, I am sent a copy immediately over email. So I don't have to go to their front page. I just wait till I get a notification on my phone. I'm like, oh, the Bank of Japan just sent me their latest statement of monetary policy. I should probably read at least the first page. Oh, conduct of yield curve control. A majority vote, 8-1. The bank will allow the 10-year JGB yields to fluctuate in a range of around plus or minus 5 percentage points from the target level, which is around 0%. The bank will offer to purchase 10-year JGBs at 1% every business day through fixed rate purchase operations, unless it is highly unlikely no bid. So the Bank of Japan will buy an unlimited amount of JGBs at 1% yield. Yields in Japan are now going to gravitate over like the next 3 months, if not sooner, to 1%. They're just going to go to like 0.8% right away. And Japan is going to see a stronger currency for it. Because what's one of the major indicators I use for my trading? It's yield spreads. So when the yields move in favor of Japan, see how all these little boxes are red? Right? Especially that 10-year box. This is the 10-year yield spread between the European yields and the Japanese yields. And this little box showing a bunch of red tells me, oh, the yields in Japan are appreciating faster than the yields in Europe. And that is a driver of FX prices. At least it can be in many scenarios. However, if there are other factors that determine whether, the magnitude of this impact. But if you're trading dollar pairs, if you're trading euro pairs, this is kind of a big deal, because the rate of bond yields in the European and the US economic system have a big role in financing future business. That's it. That's all it is. If I go to USD yen, see how short term all these yields have started to come down? This is like the first time in forever. So only in the last few hours have we started to see negative yield spread here on USD. Yeah, see that? It just started getting more bearish now. It got really positive there. Yeah, man. Check that out. Negative, negative, negative. Positive, positive, positive. When the yield spreads get positive, it's likely going to go up. When the yield spreads go negative, it's likely going to go down. So when Japan adjusts their yields, and by the way, the United States yields are also going up. So the main reason why you see a lot of green here is, did the Bank of Japan hike rates? No. They just allowed their yields to go to a higher cap. That's it. While the Federal Reserve actually did a hike, while the ECB actually did a hike. So their money is still more attractive than the yen. And if these outlooks that I posted here in the Discord, right, if you actually go through them, it's still net pretty darn favorable for the US, at least relative to other currencies. Second quarter GDP impresses. This is Moody's talking all about the details of GDP. Broad-based strength behind unexpected pickup in GDP. This is all US stuff. Japan isn't seeing this type of growth. There's going to be this big shift towards, okay, the United States is growing really, really quick. How are you going to position yourself in the second half of this year as the United States outperforms most of the developed world? Are you going to be shorting the United States? Are you going to be betting against the United States? I don't know if that's the smartest move. ECB watch, the peak is in here. Remember yesterday we had two other. We're talking about the peak coming in. I forget exactly what they were called, but I'm pretty sure we had a SEB one talking about it. And then there's another one here from SEB talking about, oh, they hiked. And now it seems like they're getting more dovish. Lagarde said that September decision could be a pause or a hike. I think the market right now has priced in like 16 or 19 basis points of rate hikes right now in the futures markets for ECB rates. So it's kind of cut right down in the middle as far as current trading expectations for whether or not we'll see another rate hike in September for the ECB. It is entirely going to depend on inflation, how those print. Here's Danske Bank talking about their ECB stuff here. ECB left no clear guidance on a potential rate hike in September. They'll assess with incoming data. However, the inflation releases Monday next week at end of August is essentially for a firm conclusion of a September hike. Okay, so that's why you read these outlooks. Right off the bat, they're giving you a whole setup for, hey, why you shouldn't be calling for September rate hike from the ECB because of a weak PMI, and why you could be calling for September rate hike, which is increases in inflation. All you gotta do is Discord, scroll down, and go to this research outlooks channel, and you'll clearly see all of the stuff. Like, here's one on the Bank of England for next week, right? Bank of England is what, third? I think I posted it actually here in the announcements. I mentioned it. Yeah, BOE, August 3rd. That's happening next week, Bank of England. So all you Great British Pound traders better start reading outlooks on the Bank of England and posting trade plans here in the server, right? Go here into the trade plans section and post your trade plans. Write up a breakdown of the research that you got, of the technical levels that you're looking at, and what setups you're interested in, and why you're biased long or short on which assets. Go ahead and write up a trade plan. It helps you think through your risks and think through your opportunities. Yeah, there's a link to the Moody's thing. Here's the link to the Wells Fargo thing. Oh, and then here's Primary Vision Network. If you don't want to do a whole bunch of reading, but you got an hour to kill watching a bunch of economic analysis, this guy used to be a head of research at, I believe, Morgan Stanley, if I recall correctly, the guy who runs Primary Vision Network, Mark Rossano. And I love his commentary. I've been listening to his commentary for, I think, more than a year now. I love listening to him, and his channel is insanely underrated. But yeah, all the resources that I use to do my research are right here, and all this is free. Just hop in. If you guys have any requests as far as charts go, now would be the time to make those requests so that then we can do some analysis on some stuff. I did post in the trade group that I got into a short here on USD CAD just before the start of the stream, so I'll go ahead and break it down because it is a day trade, and I'm going to hide the yield spread indicator, but I believe this will help illustrate my story. 1 hour chart, I believe. 5,000. Yep, that's all good. Yeah. So I'm looking at this peak in the lows for the day. So my trading expectation, and also TradingView updated this little panel here on the left-hand side. They actually created categories for all your trading, for all your chart drawings, all the tools. So you have all your lines categorized, your channels, and your pitchforks. They're all now grouped together. They're not just like in this indiscriminate list anymore. And I like it. TradingView's been pumping out quite a few updates recently that I've really appreciated. Where's the there's the arrow. So I'm expecting this. Down here to the S0.5 daily pivot. So roughly to 131.9. That's my expectation here for the day. Euro Swissy for you, James. Alrighty. Euro Swissy. Well, Swissy's probably on the weaker side. No. Yeah, that looks like a consolidation, just looking at it. Looks like I had a long trade here, and whatever happened here, that got stopped out real quick. That was probably a weekly trade. Yeah, that was probably a weekly trade. Let's look at the yield spreads. Ooh, I'd wait maybe one more day for that momentum maybe to signal. Yield spreads and net are positive, but they're kind of mixed. You can see how on the short term, so here's your 2-year, your 3-year, and your 5-year yield spreads. Those are net negative right now, and they're mostly negative due to, it looks like, shorter term effects. So these just recently went negative in a big way. But these are holding their ground and staying relatively positive. So I'd say it depends on your expectation, long versus short term. I'd rather lean on the long term yield spread because net across the board, it's still positive. Let's go ahead and look at our pivot probabilities for the month ahead here on the pair. So for Euro Swissy, it looks like we could see another move lower. Maybe we get our low around here, this S5 monthly pivot. It looks like we'll mostly get some range boundedness. We do have expanded pivots. This little thing that I'm putting my mouse on top of right here, this is for expanded pivots. So when you have expanded pivots, it means that the increased volatility from the prior trading period are making your next set of pivot points very wide and expanded. So then the distance between any two pivots are just huge. I mean, this is a 93 pip, a 94 pip range. That's huge. So when someone says, oh, buy between central pivot, S2.5, that's in a 94 pip range, my man. That's a lot of uncertainty. You're going to be either using insanely small positions so then you can adjust to have like a multi-hundred pip stop on that, or you're just going to stay out. The other alternative is you use a lower time frame. You shorten your horizon. We can look at next week's odds. So these are our high odds. There's decent likelihood that you can go up here past R1, or you actually get your top out below R0.5. These probabilities don't tell you which scenario is going to happen. It shows you the possible scenarios that can happen. So what I see is we could go up to here, or we can go a little further, right? Up to around here. And that's, oh, you're going to this prior area up here, whatever. And then past R1.5 is effectively a guess. Once you start crossing R1.5 next week, which is roughly at 0.966, you are in guessing territory. And as far as where the low usually comes in, just looking at the dashboard, the bullish range bias is the only one that flashes green. So looking at this, yeah, a stop at S1.5 looks reasonable looking at these odds. So having some time buying any pullbacks here with stops at S1, that looks reasonable based off my interpretation here. Okie doke. I don't understand your first question, Singh. If Japan Y goes to 0.5, then JPN is strong. Are you talking about the yen, which is JPY? Are you talking about their cash rate? Like, rewrite your question. Do you think the JPY pairs continue to drop? I'm looking for my trades to hit next week's targets or the monthly target. Well, we can go ahead and look maybe at Euro Yen for the month. Well, check that out. Most of the time your lows show up roughly around here between central pivot S1 on the month. And that's where we're probably bottoming out. As far as next month, though, you can see there's decent probability of us going below that S0.5. And, I mean, this whole range between 149 and 152 is definitely in the cards next month. Definitely in the cards. Bearish range bias, you hit your target 80% of the time, which means 80% of the time your low next month is somewhere below this monthly S.5 pivot, below 152. If we look at next week's odds, they look a bit more constructive actually to the bullish range. See, the bullish range bias hits its target 81% of the time. So if I were to take a bearish trade, I don't think I'd want to do it actually right now. I'd probably want to wait until... I'd probably want to wait another week. Because there's a decent likelihood that we go higher, it seems. Yeah, you're effectively saying, oh, you know, this 15% of the time is realized. Somewhere between getting your top for the week between S0.5 and R0.5 if you wanted to see a continuation lower to like the 150, the 149s. Which is actually still possible because the yield spreads are super freaking negative, right? I don't know if it'd be a smart idea to go long into, you know, these sorts of declining yield spreads, but considering that we know what's driving these, which is just the Bank of Japan moved their yields, this is really going to be more of a story of how do Japanese yields move during the first 2 or 3 trading days of next week. If the yields in yen begin appreciating at a serious rate, the impact of the increase in yields from Europe, from the ECB's recent rate hike, isn't going to be all that fantastic. Effectively, the rate of change from Japan's yields compared to Europe's yields, Japan's yields would just overtake. It'd be a bigger change in Japan. And that would send this lower. So that would be my primary concern going forward. But just looking at the odds flat out, it's like 155.5 looks like a good conservative target on the long side for next week. Effectively, any sort of short JPY trades that are taken have to be taken with a grain of salt. Just because the volatility has increased, you're now dealing with central bank policy changing, and now central bankers can come out and speak over the weekend, or they can speak over the next week and clarify their hawkish or dovish positions and further change future expectations. Because the thing that we're hanging on by a thread by right now is the unreleased inflation data. So until we get that inflation data, people are going to be speculating on word of mouth and rumors for literally the next week or two up until that event actually comes around, until the inflation events actually come around. Where, you know, reading outlooks can actually come in handy. Reading, don't get me wrong, some news. Reading this stuff comes in handy. Sharp decline in euro dollar and broad euro appreciation. This is a whole institution's breakdown on euro dollar. Consider reading it. Here is Westpac's weekly outlook. Australia and New Zealand weekly. Here's all the stuff that they talk about. Hey, RBA to raise the cash rate 25 basis points next week. All right, Reserve Bank meets next week on August 1st. And Bill Evans, who's the guy that writes the editorial, the weekly editorial, he's probably one of the most powerful people in all of Australia because he's been at Westpac, effectively running Westpac for a couple decades now. He knows some of the most powerful people in the world. What Mr. Bill Evans has to say as far as economic commentary goes is on the order of the RBA itself. because Westpac is the largest bank in Australia, and they do a lot of business in New Zealand as well. Looking at, it looks like Aussie dollar. So if Australia is expected to hike on August 1st, which is the Tuesday, it seems like buying has already begun for the front running here. Yeah. Hey, and look at that. Probability pivot weighted high hit. Ooh, and it went down here. And there's your probability gap. Yeah, once you go past that S1, it seems like going down here. All right, so maybe you got one little dip into the area just above the 66 handle. So in the lower half of the 66 handle here, just below S0.5. And then you take it up, but that would have to happen on Monday. So Monday would have to look like this, which is the 31st, and then sideways into the 1st of August. And then once RBA comes out, it goes up. And how high up? That's a good question. Oh, look where I drew my arrow, right at the probability weighted pivot high. Oh, how, if the Japanese yen yield goes up, how does that impact the stock market? It's not good. That's it, it's not good. I mean, you saw the reaction after today, right? Over the last 24 hours. If we go to the ES coughed along. NQ coughed along. If I go to Nikkei, big wick down. But look at that. Probability weighted pivot high, smacked that. And then the volatility came through. Damn, I love this indicator, man. I mean, maybe indicators. You can go to the WAP store. Right, you go here. So that's Wayne's Pivots. You click on Boss Trading Group. And I just did this today. You can actually do a 14-day trial of the trading group. You can get a 14-day trial of Wayne's Pivots. But you have to open in the Discord. You have to go to indicators and this thing here. Requests and questions, and then start a trial. You click that button here in the Discord. And then you can ask for Wayne's Pivots Pro and for group. The trials are all 2 weeks. But you can go ahead, sign up. $100 a month is totally fair for these indicators, but you get all these indicators. You get range probabilities, the FX yield spread. You get seasonal forecasts. I'll show that off in just a sec. And let's go back to trading view here. So yeah, that's that. Actually, you know what? I want to go back to that outlook by Monsieur Bill Evans. Let's see, where is it? There we go. Yeah, so all you got to do is read this and you'll know what's going on in Australia. Look at this. Other factors create inertia for inflation in the second half of 2023 to 2024. Look at all these macroeconomic indicators that the chief economist of Westpac is looking at. This guy is literally writing out and telling you, hey, these are the things that we're concerned about. Here are the things that we're looking forward to over the next 6 months. Be wary. Here's what we're looking at. I mean, if you want to learn how to get good at trading, you first have to get competent at the actual thing that you are trading. You have to know what it is you're doing, right? What is it you're buying and selling? And in FX markets can be quite tricky for even a lot of quant traders because they don't know how to take into account a lot of the factors that, like all these things here, they're like, how do I get the data to quantify all this stuff? So they find other things to quantify and other things to measure and other things to manage. CAD news coming. EuroCAD looks like a buy. So in a split second, I like to pull up Financial Juice. So you say Canadian news is coming out. Canadian GDP is coming out. And it just took me to Canada's website. So Canadian GDP is coming out. Let's see here. Intel had good earnings. Bank of Japan was the only significant central bank that had not started to reverse its ultra-easy monetary policy. If a September hike comes, it will be the last, says people from the ECB. We are close to a peak or at the peak. We might see the situation of a September pause or an October hike. Man, it's almost like these guys are telling you what they're going to do. And delve into more charts. Again, now's a good time to give me recommendations for charts to check out for the week ahead. We'll bring up EuroCAD. And you can see very good pivot probability odds of going above R0.5. I think this is one of the better trade setups that I've seen. 89% of the time, the top for next week occurs above the R0.5 weekly pivot. So I'm just going to put a line that goes up like that. And as far as downside goes, if we do continue to see downside, because you can clearly see how the yield spreads went green here and we went up, and now the yield spreads went down here, and so we went down. Oh, that looks like an excellent buying opportunity. So buy that pivot probability low and then take it to R1. And this looks like a range-bound trade, right? And in pivot point trading, a range-bound trade is simply buying above S1 and selling below R1, or buying at S1, selling at R1. And in a range-bound trade, you don't care the order in which these pivots are hit, just that it goes down and gets hit and goes up, or it goes up and gets hit, then comes down, right? Okay, doke. So this will be my baseline scenario. You get something like this. Okay, doke. I think that is just about everything. Let's see here. Is there anything else you guys wanted me to cover? Because it looks like we are now ready for the week ahead. Been done. I mean, we just blazed through like 20 tabs of information. If there's one thing, if you're into doing some additional research on Japan, I recommend actually reading this. The Outlook for Economic Activity and Prices for July 2023, Bank of Japan. The link to this is also in the Outlooks section in the Discord. If you go to Research and actually Central Banks, it's under Central Banks. Yep, there it is. Outlook for Economic Activity. See, there it is. So you go there and you read this, and it tells you exactly what the Bank of Japan is currently expecting for the Japanese economy and what economic factors they are taking into account for their decision making and their expectations for each of those factors. So if you're not up to date on it, and truth be told, these are updated expectations, so I'm going to be going through and seeing what's changed since the last summary. It'd be worth, this is a productive use of how to spend your time when it comes down to trade research. Other than that, you can get these indicators, join the trade group, and do some trade plans with me for the week and now for the month ahead, because in the middle of next week's trading, we go from July to August. So we'll be doing month ahead trade plans. So we're going to be doing trade plans for August in the trade group. And everyone who's going to be making trade plans will get my feedback. We'll get the help one-on-one on how to interpret these indicators. And there's been some improvements with the software I use, that whole WAP store thing. They got a lot of cool stuff coming down the pike. So I'll be able to provide you guys with more things down the line. I just have to figure out exactly what I want to do first before I start announcing stuff. You know, I'll get a little bit of work done. Not like I'm already busy enough programming all this stuff and then teaching it, doing daily streams, and then all this extra writing. Okay, with that all said, I'll go ahead and say thank you all for watching. It's been a particularly productive and quick stream. So again, thank you. If you want to join the trade group, come on, hop into the trade group. If you want to see more of these trade plans done on the day-to-day, go ahead and subscribe, put on the notifications, join the Discord, and I'll see you Monday for the daily live streams. If you're in the trade group, I'll see you Saturday for a private trade plan session just for people in the trading group. So Monday through Friday, 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern is when the stream starts. I thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in a bit. Have a good weekend. Have a great weekend.